How are stars made? Science has its theories, but do we actually know how they are formed up there? What if they were formed by giant green and purple squids called star makers, swimming through space? And what happens when there's no more of these star makers left? Yes, this is a super weird and crazy idea. That's why it fits so perfectly in the world of Courage the Cowardly Dog. I'm almost positive I don't need to go into great detail about the show. You most likely know it, but if you need a refresher, well then, here it goes. Abandoned as a pup, Courage was found by Muriel and her husband Eustace, who live on a farm in the middle of nowhere. Courage lives a somewhat peaceful life except for when creepy stuff shows up to the farm to wreak havoc. Then it's up to Courage to save the day while his owners are usually seem oblivious to what's going on around them. The show was a massive hit in the 2000s and has been a spark of inspiration for tons of kids growing up and gotten very much into themes of horror, weirdness, and animation, all from one show created by John R. Dilworth. You've probably seen him a few times and just didn't know it. He could be seen in one episode where Eustace is watching TV, but mostly his character framed around the farmhouse. Yep, that weird little wavy guy is John R. himself, the son of Eustace and Muriel, perhaps? So we're all familiar with Courage. Now let's talk about one of the show's saddest episodes, The Last of the Star Makers. This episode aired in late 2002 in the show's fourth and final season, and it's here where the creators decided to take the show in a more emotional and complex direction, giving us such classics as The Mask, both perfect and remembrance of Courage past, and of course, The Last of the Star Makers. Out in space, two squid-like creatures are floating around with their unborn offspring, still in their little clear eggs. These space squid-like creatures are called star makers, and just like their name says, they create new stars in the sky. Unfortunately, they are the last of their kind, and things are only about to get worse. A giant space whale disrupts the squid's peaceful existence and tries to eat one of the squids that's protecting their unborn children. Not cool, bro. Also, just an FYI, space whales have always been my favorite animal, but this one's kind of a jerk face. Just saying. The other squid sacrifices itself to save its partner and the children by flinging itself into the mouth of the giant space whale, allowing the partner squid and the young to escape. The squid lands on Earth right in front of our protagonist's farm, which has them investigating the giant alien creature. Courage is terrified as usual. Muriel instantly goes into protective mode and wants to help, and Eustace does as Eustace does. He calls the secret department of space squids. Again, not cool, bro. Being as silly as this show is, the space squid department is there before Eustace can even put down the phone, and they apprehend Muriel for trying to intervene. The general in charge gives Eustace $1 million in cold hard something. I don't think it's cash though, it'll come up later. Then skates away, cause of course he does. Courage is tasked with saving the day as he always does. Seriously, this cartoon dog is just heads and tails above every other cartoon dog that there is. Snoopy? No. Scooby-Doo? Nah. Brian Griffin? Not even close. Okay? Courage is just number one, hands down, the cartoon dog of all time. Just gonna say that right now, okay? Through what I can only describe as a hilarity of nonsense that only 2000s Cartoon Network knew how to capture, Courage is finally able to return the squid eggs to the parent squid, who is now sadly wasting away on a medical table. The eggs finally hatch and break out of the containment bubble, freeing the parent squid from captivity. The newly hatched baby squids float back into space and form a new constellation of both parent squids and baby squid.
Hey, who left this bowl of onions here?
The parent squid, now freed, uses its last bit of strength to crawl back onto the farm and die, but in its place grows a beautiful garden.
Would you get out of here?
The general for secret space squids returns and has been promoted to in charge of secret cover-ups. He asks Courage and Muriel to not breathe a word of what they've seen here, and then he's off like a ghost in the night. Seriously, he basically just asked them to pinky promise not to talk about this space sea creature that fell from the sky that helps shape the universe. And he's just like, please don't talk about this. I freaking love this show. With there no space squid to experiment on, the general decides that Eustace shouldn't have that reward money. Luckily, he paid Eustace in something that's probably isn't cash because it's made from rocket fuel, sends Eustace into space. What the hell was in that bag? And with that, the saddest episode is concluded. So I wanted to cover this specific episode because to me, it is the most emotional episode in the show. I know a lot of people say remembrance of Courage's past is sadder, but I think because we see Courage's parents get a tiny bit of happy ending by getting their revenge on the scientists in that episode is more of a happy ending than both squid parents sacrificing themselves and dying for their babies to go on. That's just my opinion though. I think the creators of Courage knew that season 4 was going to be its final season and just tried to go for more emotions, just trying to go as hard as possible on not just focusing on being a good scary cartoon, but a good solid impactful show overall. That's the one thing that I always loved about this cartoon. Yes, it's designed to be a scary kid show, but there's always been so much more depth to Courage the Cowardly Dog than just scares. It's a great introduction to complex emotions like grief, fear, depression, anger, happiness. The show is designed to wear a scary mask, but underneath that mask at its core is a show that's emotional on so many different levels, and that's why it's so great. That's why The Last of the Star Makers is a great episode. Also that music, just that single piano tune that can feel really sad and lonely, or just simple and whimsical depending on the situation, and it fits perfectly with this episode. Okay, now that all the emotional symbolic stuff is out of the way, another reason this is a great episode is because of just how freaking weird this episode is. I mean, you got giant space squids and whales, you got a whole ass US Department of Space squids and cover-ups, guys turning into remote control suitcases, a general skating from place to place, and seriously, what was in that bag? What was in the bag? Honestly, I don't know how the writers of this show can take scenes of parents sacrificing themselves to save their unborn children, mixing in feelings of depression and hopelessness, and just stitch all that emotional buildup with just some really weird side characters and jokes, and still make the whole thing work so well in the span of 10 minutes. That's just the magic that made this show so great, and why it'll always be my favorite cartoon of all time. Seriously, this show is just entry-level animated Twilight Zone. Or Black Mirror, if you somehow don't know what Twilight Zone is. I, like a lot of people, was pretty bummed when I found out that HBO removed Courage from its streaming service. I haven't watched the show in years, and just about 2 months ago I decided to put it on and immediately went to this episode first, then went back and started binging the show. I do this often with Bob's Burgers, Schitt's Creek, The Golden Girls. I just put on a show and rewatch all the episodes multiple times after work or while eating dinner, or even falling asleep with the TV on. Seriously, I cannot fall asleep without that TV playing in the background. I must have a TV playing, no fan. It must be just TV show playing on in the background is the only way I can fall asleep. I guess my only option is just to buy the physical discs of the show, and that way I will have it for the rest of my life. They can never take that away from me, those streaming bastards. They'll have to pry out of my cold dead fingers, because it's going to be buried with me. I'll tell you that much. Hello there, and thank you for watching this video. If you did, it really means a lot to me. Yes, these videos are a work in progress, but I actually have been enjoying making these kinds of videos. Even if my monotone voice doesn't show it, I'm really happy to make a video about Courage the Cowardly Dog, as it's always been a favorite show of mine. I wasn't kidding when I said this is my favorite cartoon of all time. I know there's some great cartoons like Ed, Edd n Eddy, Cat Dog, Rugrats, Dexter's Laboratory, Doug, Hey Arnold. The list just goes on forever, but this show just took that spark of inspiration that lit the fire of imagination in my brain that's just never gone away. I may have neglected the creative side of myself for a good portion of my adult life so far, but the creativity, the love of horror, and especially imaginative horror, has always stuck with me on some level, and I'll always have this show to thank for that. I guess that's it. That's all I have for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully I will see you all again very soon with another interesting story. Bye.